A familiar ceiling. The smell of bed and pillows. I knew them well. Was this my room? Normally there wouldn't be anyone in my room besides me, but the presence made me spring wide awake. When I did that, pain shot through my entire body. Oh, for the love of fuck. Feeling alright? I think it'd be better if you just lie down for a bit. Why was Raina in my room? Blood began to surge through my muscles and my capillaries. But Raina's smile belonged to the Raina I knew well. I knew I shouldn't let myself feel this way, but I relaxed thinking that this was the version of Raina was safe. Why am I... Don't you remember? After losing consciousness, nothing at all. My body had become more lethargic than I could have ever imagined. I guess that would be expected outcome after exerting everything I had back there. I tried to at least clear my head, but I couldn't shake the sluggish feeling out of my mind. I called the doctor. He should be here soon. I think you better just lie down until then. I wasn't injured seriously enough to merit calling a doctor, but knowing that someone impartial was coming was slightly reassuring. Why am I here? I'm sure I was at the dam site. That's what I want to know. What happened? When I got there, Keiichi-kun's already passed out. That's why I'm the one who wants to know. I was attacked by two weirdos. As I talked about it, I finally remembered what happened right before I passed out. Recalling that memory and the terror that went along with it caused the fogginess around my head to clear right up. Let's forget about those two for now. I didn't expect Raina to be nursing me. I thought Raina was trying to kill me. She would have had the perfect chance while I was unconscious. Not only did she not kill me, she'd nursed me back to health. Amazing you could drag me all the way back here. Wasn't I heavy? Looking at Raina's delicate frame, it was hard to believe that she had not only gotten me back home, but even dragged me all the way up to the second floor. I don't know how heavy Colonel Randy was, but I'm assuming she's stronger than she looks. You know, for murdering people. Did she have some help? Don't you remember Keiichi-kun? Raina appeared a bit surprised, but still kept her smile. I only poked you up on my shoulder. You said you could walk on your own and that you were fine. You don't remember? I didn't remember. My memory was fuzzy after the point where I lost consciousness. What about those two? When you got there, Raina, the ones with me, or rather those two guys. There wasn't anyone. She said it bluntly. The way she stated it felt slightly unpleasant. I was just too timid at the time. I might have been able to force some answers out of Raina, but if I did that, then this kind Raina might transform into the scary Raina who I didn't know. Fearing that, I didn't press any further. Thinking about it, it was the obvious choice. If both of those men were there, I don't think Raina would have even stood a chance. She had the hatchet. I'm not gonna lie. I couldn't find a way to explain it unless I assumed she brought me here after those two guys were already gone. Raina was still smiling. Her eyes sparkled warmly. And yet, I felt like I was hallucinating when I saw something. Something akin to a shadow slowly creeping across her face. That small omen sent shivers down my spine. While Reina was still Reina, I needed to make contact. I needed to contact Oishi-san. Reina stopped me when I tried to get out of bed. She said it would aggravate my wounds, so I should sleep. I'd like to go to the bathroom, though. Sorry. Reina couldn't say anything else. While Reina stayed in the room, I quickly went downstairs to get the phone receiver in the living room. When I approached the front door, the doorbell rang with a ding-dong sound. Must have been the doctor Reina had called. I'm concerned that it's not. It was strange for a patient to welcome in the doctor who was making a house call. But it would be incredibly reassuring to have him here for a considerable time it would take to Oishi-san to get here. I carelessly opened the door with that simple assumption and regretted it almost instantly. Are we taking bets? I almost called her Shion. Is that her name? I've legit forgotten. That's horrible of me. Mion, not Shion. Sorry, I've been watching too much Hololive. What can I say? Mion? Oh, you look just fine. I heard you collapsed, so I came to check up on you. How did you know I collapsed? I heard from Reina over the phone. I need any reason other than that. I understood why she'd call a doctor. But why Mion too? Reina was descending the stairs behind me. Reina, does the Kei-chan look pretty alright? She made me worry for nothing. That's true. Maybe I worried for nothing as well. They both began laughing. I'm concerned. I'm more concerned about Mion than I am about Reina. I'm gonna be real honest right now. She was the one that went fucking actually delirious. It appeared to be cheerful laughter, but I couldn't shake the feeling that there was a darkness looming over them. Whoa, what's up with the shoe rack? How'd it get like this? Sorry, I'm hearing creepy noises from outside, and I don't know what that is. If this video never makes it to air, I died. The shoe rack that I smashed to pieces had been like that since yesterday. I fell, you see. And the bat I was holding at the time slammed into it. This is what happens when you swing around something you're not used to handling. I kept the fact that it was none of her business to myself. But leaving it like this will really startle your parents when they get home. I just want to check something because I accidentally mouse wheeled to check a setting over here and it skipped through some shit. Okay, no it didn't. I'm always paranoid, but that's just me. I'll fix it up for you later. You're a carpenter? Now come on, Kei-chan. The terminally ill need their rest. Come on, get back in bed. Back in bed. Both of them urged me up the stairs. I had no chance to call Oishi-san. I was pushed into my bed. As it was the first time Mion had been in my room, she began searching around it intently. She fiddled around my room and was scolded by Reina. You can imagine how it went. It was uncomfortable having my room poked around, but the conversation was so benign that it was heartwarming. During that innocent conversation, Mion said something as though it was perfectly ordinary. Reina! Did you call the director? Yep. Right after I called Mi-chan.
He said he'd be right over.
Director? That out-of-place word gave me a bad feeling. Reina called a doctor, then called Mion, and after that she called a director? Who was this director? Since Reina and Mion's conversation was so peaceful, it only felt slightly odd. What are you two talking about? Who's this director? Mion, I keep saying this. Back the fuck up.
You don't know, Kei-chan? We mean the director when we say the director. Like the director of a movie. Like a foreman of a construction site.
I'm in trouble. I'm in a lot of trouble right now. I dug through all of my memories for a director who might have business with me. Only one thing came to mind. What Reina had just said. Yep. Yeah, that bothered me as well. Don't you worry, Kei-chan. The construction site foreman. The very first victim of the first incident. The dismemberment of the damn construction site. That foreman? But that was strange. He was supposed to be dead. There was no way they could call him. I don't understand what you guys are talking about. What does that director have to do with me? I'm just waiting for the, dead behind the eyes expression. Because it's gonna happen. And I'm gonna shit myself, even though I'm expecting it. You said he was coming. Did you mean to my house? I asked one obvious question after another. But all the two of them did was smile coolly at each other. There was the huge difference between how the two of them appeared and how my suspicions were playing out. Slowly, I felt discomfort and panic welling up inside me. I couldn't understand what Reina and Mion were talking about.
Kei-chan, you've gotten into baseball lately, haven't you? Pretty sure the director will be happy to hear that.
So who is this director? It's that laugh. Considering I heard it chasing me with a hatchet earlier, I don't feel good about my life right now. But every time she laughs, I get a little more nervous. Also, that wind is really fucking loud outside. Jesus Christ. That doesn't sound like a bad omen. I don't know what does.
The director is the director.
So who is this director? You're not helping, both of you. I don't like it. Reina and Mion looked at each other and laughed haughtily. A disturbing cackle unpleasantly resounded around me. That laugh, long enough to be upsetting, ended abruptly.
Oh yeah! We should finish up before the director comes. You remember, don't you, Kei-chan?
Her face was laughing, but Mion's eyes told a different story. They're not crazy yet. Keyword being yet. Remember. Remember what?
Keiichi-kun, had he forgotten, I wonder? About the penalty. About the penalty. Did you really forget? The homework with the mochi?
Oh, fuck.
Well, you were supposed to guess which one Reina made. You forgot about that homework, didn't you?
I certainly did have that homework. To be fair, I told Mion which one I thought was the right one. But I had only thrown away the rest of the mochi after I found that sewing needle. So I wasn't able to answer which one Reina made. The penalty for that? Why now? No doubt my question was written all over my face. Their answer to my question was that dry laughter. I could no longer make heads or tails of anything. I began to think that this entire day was somehow insane. Strange. Incomprehensible. Being chased by Reina? Attacked by strange men? The penalty Mion and Reina were talking about. Why does it feel like I'm about to die? What were those two laughing at? Didn't take that long for me to realize that I'd been dragged into an abnormal situation. Who were these two? Who were these people? Who were these doppelgangers of Reina and Mion? That's the look I was expecting. I'm just glad they didn't do it while bent over me. That would have been something. Reina had gotten behind me at some point. Why was she pinning my arms behind my back? Oh god, no. Here goes something horrific. What are you doing?
Don't move. This is your penalty.
My body was already very sluggish, and Reina pinning my arms made it that much harder to move. I seriously tried to struggle, but she wouldn't even budge. My panic began to well up, and I realized this was well beyond the realm of jokes and pleasantries. This freakishly monstrous strength. It would have been impossible for the Reina that I knew. Then, these thin, frail arms grasped me firmly. Whose arms were they?
Kei-chan, no struggling. Club rule number... Yeah, it doesn't matter which one it is. You can't fight against the penalty.
Mion. No, that thing that looked like Mion. Spoke to me like how Mion would speak to me. But I was certain that it was not Mion. Someone who wasn't Mion. Someone who was just pretending to be Mion.
You need to finish this up before the director comes.
Mion fished into her pockets and pulled out something bizarre. I could tell what it was just by looking, but for such a thing to be in her pocket, my mind wouldn't accept it. What is that? It was a small syringe. It was a small, clear syringe. The kind a doctor might use if you went to them with a high fever. Reina held me even tighter. And I could hear that clattering laughter that no longer sounded like laughter blaring in my ear. That eerie laughter wasn't something that the Reina I knew could ever produce from her own throat. This thing that was pretending to be Reina, was this their real laugh? Unable to defend myself, the syringe Mion holding drew closer. And the needle tip was waved in front of my face countless times.
Don't worry, don't worry. It won't hurt. It won't hurt.
What are you planning on doing? What kind of sick joke is this?
What are you saying, Kei-chan? You know exactly what's going on, don't you?
About what? I don't understand any of this at all.
I know you know. No use playing the fool this late in the game.
Stop talking nonsense to try and confuse me.
You're gonna have done to you what happened to Tomitake-san.
I don't like this look. It was bad enough when it wasn't in blood red, but now we're here. What? The same as Tomitake-san? I didn't really understand what she meant. What did that have to do with the syringe?
Keiichi-kun. You're playing dumb, Keiichi-kun. You should have realized it by now.
Reina whispered into my ear, laughing as if to admonish me. But even the way she spoke was repulsive beyond compare. Playing dumb? Me? About what? What do you mean the same as Tomitake-san? I was not prepared to do this voice tonight, and I really should have been. Everyone thought at first that it was a hit and run. Except when the officer got closer to check if he was still alive, he soon noticed it wasn't a normal situation. His throat was scratched out. From a knife or something? No. Nails. Nails? Nails as in fingernails? With those gouged through? That's right. Tomitake-san had clawed out his own throat with his own nails and died. There was no way someone could die like that. So then, for that to happen, we thought drugs were to blame, but nothing of that nature was detected. That's right. The police didn't find any drugs in Tomitake-san's system. The police told me they didn't find any drugs in Tomitake-san's body. What the I don't know who's laughing. I don't like it, though. The two of them laughed together with that sickening laughter. Of course they'd laugh. To assume that such a medicine didn't exist just because the police didn't know about it was completely foolish. Meaning the drug that caused Tomitake-san to die in such a bizarre manner did exist? If Mion injected this into me, then that would probably be all the proof I needed. That would basically mean I'd end up the same as Tomitake-san. Becoming hysterical, scratching out my throat in my last moments, and then die. For such an outrageous drug to exist. For Mion to be holding it. And that I was about to be injected with it. At that moment, I did not feel there was any need whatsoever to question it. What kind of idiot, when he's trying to dodge a ball flying straight for his face, thinks he has time for a reason as to why it's flying at him?
Just give up. Alright then.
Mion's actions lacked any gravitas, and that made it even more terrifying. There was none of the ceremony like when someone is sentenced to death. There was no hesitation at all, as if she were brushing her teeth. Mion reached out with one hand and grabbed onto my chest. It felt like electricity had run through the back of my head and the entire world had gone dark. Did I stand up too fast? Or did someone hit me in the back of the head really hard? Having lost my sense of balance, I was assaulted by a wave of dizziness. Well, let's see how this pans out, shall we? I don't have much faith, but... I squatted down for a bit, and when I came back to my senses, my entire room had changed drastically. I was gonna say, it was a negative. Holy shit, what kind of drugs were they that she put in my system? The numbness in my head was gone, and slowly I could tell blood was flowing to my extremities again. How long had I been squatting here? How many minutes? Or had it been hours? It was almost as if the hands on the clock had stopped moving the entire time my eyes were closed. That's how little time had passed. Really? The air of the room wasn't filled with the madness from before. Only a dull silence. Reina wasn't there pinning my arms, and Mina wasn't there... Try that sentence again. Reina wasn't there pinning my arms, and Mion wasn't there about to inject me with a needle. No way. Could it be... all of it was a hallucination? There was no other presence in the room besides my own. It was the weirdest experience I'd ever had. I was certainly with Reina and Mion. Got a bruise on your chest, dude? Should probably look for that. It's a pretty good indicator. I doubted my sanity for a moment, but I was also seized with some sort of comfort. I guess the terrible ordeal was just a hallucination. Neither Reina nor Mion. They wouldn't ever do something so terrible. My head grew hot. I could tell my emotions were welling up. Why? That wasn't a reason to cry. Why? It was... sorrow. Why was I sad? I don't understand. I don't understand. Kind to everyone. Not discriminating against age or gender. Mion. That Mion was sprawled out by the window in an unnatural pose. Blood stained her a deep red from her head down to her chest. The bright crimson smeared on the walls. The splatter had undoubtedly come from Mion. She had always had that bright smile and was kind to me from the day I transferred. Reina. That same Reina was slumped to my feet and was making the same pool of blood as Mion. I couldn't comprehend what had happened. Did someone come to save me? Then they beat these two down? With this metal bat? I finally noticed the weight in my right hand. How long had it been there? It was Satoshi's metal bat. It was covered in a deep red. There was no doubt that this was the weapon used to mutilate them both. And I was holding that weapon. I was the only person in the house. What? Looking at this objectively, I couldn't think of anyone other than myself who could have done it. I did this? That's right. Keiichi Maibara. Of course I did it. I told myself gently, as if coaxing myself. Hey, me. There's no reason for you to remember it, nor is there a need to regret it. Eat or be eaten. You get that, don't you? But the blood... the blood... There's so much... Neither Reina nor Mion had moved an inch. It wasn't just a split forehead and a trickle of blood. Nothing that simple. The entire room was splattered with red, and that told me it didn't end with just 2 or 3 strikes. Are they dead? Both of them? The depths of my mind were calm, but on the surface I was panicking and agitated. Calm down, Keiichi Maibara. What happened to your usual calm self? Hey, dude, he left in like fucking episode 4, I'm pretty sure. Come on now. Do you like you always do. Throw your head back and take a deep breath. Come on. Once. Twice. Breathe deeply. Calm down. Calm down. I chanted that over and over in my head and relaxed. Colour came back to my vision and smells reinfused the air. At the same time, I remembered what happened when I blacked out. Reina and Mion had attacked me. They were about to inject me with whatever caused the same symptoms as Tomitaki-san. But right before that happened, I fought back. I twisted my whole body and threw Reina as she was pinning my arms. Then I followed through with my spin and rammed my foot as hard as I could into Mion's torso. It was soft. Reina tried jumping on me, so I tackled her as hard as I could and slammed her against the wall. I didn't let that moment of having them off balance slip by. Satoshi's bat that was left carelessly by the side of my desk. I don't like that bleep noise. At that moment, everything went pitch black. There was nothing recorded past this point in the videotape of my mind. No, that wasn't right. It wasn't that there was nothing recorded. It was recorded just fine. Just the other me inside myself. He told me not to look and had turned off the TV. Just because the screen had gone black and I couldn't see it, didn't mean that the videotape within me hadn't recorded it. The TV was just off. The video was still playing. The tape within me, creaking along and still playing. On the other end of that pitch black screen, that horrifying video still playing on. Compared to this, though, the scene right before my eyes, was still so difficult to take in. There was blood splattered everywhere on the walls, the two of them in these unnatural poses. Not a sign of movement from them. I couldn't even tell if they were breathing. No matter what the circumstances were. My friends, these girls, I had attacked them. I may have even killed them. But if I hadn't done this, I would have been the one done for. Balancing that out on an imaginary scale, it felt odd that I'd even feel bad about it. Even if it was a bit excessive, this was justifiable self-defense. The proof was all here. The two of them collapsed here and Mion's syringe. Mion's syringe filled with some unknown drug that would certainly solve the mystery surrounding the incident with Tomitake-san. And from the fact that both of these two were involved, they'd be able to pick out criminals one after the other. Still, I might be suspected for this. But that was just fine. Anyway, now this should be a police affair. This wouldn't fade into the darkness like Reina's past incidents. As long as the police were involved, that should bring this case to a close. They'll probably revisit their investigation on the chain of incidents. Oishi-san would definitely get to the bottom of it. Meaning, my wish of not wanting to die, of wanting to know the truth, that would be fulfilled in its most basic form. It was all a matter of time now. The Dr. Reina called should be getting here soon. I'll confess everything to him. I needed to contact Oishi-san. At that moment, I remembered. Besides the doctor, a director had been called. It was easy to imagine that this was someone deeply involved with the incident, judging from Reina and Mion's conversation. The ache in my chest caused by the gruesome deed I'd done dissipated rapidly. It was not over yet. This place was no longer safe. Stay calm, Keiichi Maibara. It's not over yet. I needed to live long enough to tell the police of this incident. At that moment, I felt like I heard someone's voice from outside. Since people were speaking, it must mean that there was more than one person. I moved the curtain ever so slightly and peered outside. It was a bizarre sight. About 4 or 5 grown men were all gathered at the gate. They very much resembled the 2 men who had assaulted me at the dam site today. Those 2 might even be among them. There was one person there wearing a white coat, but he didn't look like a doctor at all. My gut told me that he was in disguise, only posing as a doctor. That guy would probably ring the bell and get me to open the front door. Pretend to be a doctor to get me to open the door, and then the rest of them would all rush in at once. At that moment, I saw the car parked behind the men and my heart nearly skipped a beat. The white van! No mistaking it. That van. The one that had tried to run me down? The man in the white coat entered the gate and headed toward the front door. The rest of the men hid in the bushes and watched him. I probably couldn't pretend that I wasn't home. Undoubtedly, they'd just break the window and enter. I needed to get out of here somehow. Then use a public phone to contact Oishi-san. Then meet up somewhere. First of all, I need a weapon. Then shoes. But before all that, there was one thing that I had to do. I had no intention of dying. I'd live and reveal the truth about this nonsensical curse of Oyashiro-sama. But what would happen from here on, regardless of how determined I was, may bring about my demise. And that was why. There's one thing more important than getting out of here right now. I needed to get that clock out quickly and take down the note hidden behind it. Damn it! The tape was sticking to it fast. It'd be fine if it was torn a little. I opened up the slightly torn note and began writing another passage with a ballpoint pen. If I wasn't able to inform Oishi-san, the only thing I could rely on was this note. Never thought a piece of torn, college-ruled notebook paper could be this reliable. I had no time. I'd only write what I knew right now. I needed to leave some sort of information that would lead them to uncover the truth. Reina and Mion are conspirators of the perpetrators. This was an undeniable fact. I still didn't want to believe it, but it was a fact. Anyway, I'd leave all the information that would help them in finding the perpetrators. There were 4 or 5 adults, maybe more. They have a white van. This was everything I was able to see from the window. There may be more. Also, there was that unidentified person known as the director. To begin with, the term director didn't even mesh with Hinamizawa at all. If they were going to include the directors from the past incidents, then the only one is the construction foreman, the victim from the first murder. The very first victim in the chain of incidents. Killed in a lynching, his body divided into 6 pieces. His right arm was never discovered. The police should have confirmed that death. But Reina and Mion did both call him a director. They said director. They wouldn't use that term to refer to someone who was dead. The police would never even conceive that someone who was deceased could be involved. Could that be some sort of oversight? I didn't know. But even if I didn't know, it could be a big hint for Oishi-san. That's right. They needed to start fresh from the first incident. It wasn't just a simple dismemberment, but the start of this string of mysterious deaths that would follow. So then there must be something hidden there. There is. A right arm. I'm a terrible person and should probably head out and stop making jokes. Please reinvestigate the victim from the dismemberment incident. He's alive. His death should have been established after an autopsy. Logically, you would think as much. But was that really the case? Could it have been some sort of ploy that they were able to deceive the police with? Oh, maybe the director is the police director. Maybe he's in on this as well. I shouldn't jump to conclusions. But he may still be alive. Could the director, be also, other than the police theory I just came up with, could it also refer to the guy who orchestrated the first one? The one who gathered all the people up and were like, we're gonna murder this man. I had no time to ponder that right now. Oh yeah. There's something even more important I needed to write. Tomitaki-san's death was from an unknown drug. That's right. That drug. It was an irreplaceable piece of evidence. No doubt. Just by having this, everything would be uncovered. I couldn't just leave that vital clue lying on the floor. The syringe is proof. Writing that down, I stuck the syringe on the back of the clock with plenty of tape. So it would absolutely not slip on the floor. Firmly. That's my cue to GTFO, if you don't mind. The bell rang. They were here. I couldn't write anymore. But even still, there was one last thing I had to write. I have no idea why it had become like this. This may be the closest thing to the truth out of everything I wrote on this note. If you're reading this, then I'm probably already dead. Though you may or may not find my body. If I was going to write out everything that could happen, either dying from the curse or being demoned away, you who are reading this, please uncover the truth. That is my only desire. With this, my last will and testament was complete. It wasn't certain that I was going to die, but it was my final plea, just in case. I folded the note, stuck it to the back of the clock, and returned the clock back to its usual spot. I couldn't help but pray. Oishi-san, if something happens to me, I leave the rest to you. After that, I gazed down silently at Reina and Mion. This was probably the last time we'd ever see each other. Reina, Mion. I really had thought all of us were friends. But why did it end up like this? I never had any fun in my previous school. I only worried about standardized test scores. About if the school I'd hoped to get into was where I really wanted to go or a safety net. That was all I talked about. It was a dull life. The people I called friends were also my rivals in studying, in competitions, personal records, and standardized test scores. Everyone here taught me how unhealthy that lifestyle was. This month really was fun. Making a fuss over lunch, making a fuss over the club, making a fuss over the festival. Something hot began dripping from my face. Uncontrollable tears. I should have no obligation to shed tears for them. But they wouldn't stop. Even if they were after my life. Even if they were trying to kill me. Everything that happened this month, I wouldn't forget it. Or could it be that these happy days were all a facade as well? Was it all a trap, meticulously orchestrated up until that day to ensnare me? Could it have been that I just arbitrarily assumed that they were my friends? That couldn't have been the case. Both Reina and Mion, they really were my friends. Those happy days. There was nothing fake or unclear about them. Someone probably forced them to try to kill me. Or their minds were taken over, possessed by the supernatural entity known as Oyashiro-sama. Regardless, both Reina and Mion, they were the best friends ever. And when they were coming after me, it wasn't of their own volition. But they weren't the kind of people to sell off their friends, no matter what means were employed to force them. There was no way such thing as being possessed by Oyashiro-sama could happen in reality. Then did the real Reina and Mion come after me? What was I thinking? What a silly and dumb idea. Having beaten down both Reina and Mion, I was still debating if they were the real ones or fakes. There was no real or fake. Only the reality that was before me. Reina and Mion was sprawled out at my feet. That was the only truth. I was only trying to twist the facts to my benefit that I had beaten my friends to death. No matter how I'd spun it, it wouldn't change the reality that both Reina and Mion were dead. It felt like there was a crack in the dam of strange emotions I was holding back. It felt like my calm state, which was nothing more than the bluff, had receded, and in that opening, insanity was leaking out. I killed them. I killed them. Reina and Mion. I killed them. The doorbell rang again. The unrelenting echo pulled me back into a state of composure once again. I didn't have a moment to spare. Quickly, I needed to get away. I didn't want to die. I would uncover everything after that. The identity of whoever or whatever had pushed me this far. Even if I had to drink mud and eat grass, I would survive. I would survive. I'd definitely survive. I killed Reina for that very reason. I also killed Mion. I went that far just to keep living. So I can't die. For my sake, and for the sake of the late Reina and Mion. I have to survive. I ran towards the door and grabbed my shoes. The doorbell rang again as if to urge me on. Behind this single, solitary door, they were there. Do I have a back door? Keeping quiet, I headed toward the kitchen. Headed toward the back door. Before opening the back door, I put my ear to it and checked for people outside. No one? After I put on my shoes, I opened the door slowly as to not make a sound. There he is! The back door! A piercing voice echoed out. That voice stabbed through me, setting my hair on end. I had to run. Get out of here, Keiichi! One after the other, I felt stuff like rationale and intelligence. Those things you use for when you have time to spare spill out of me. I didn't feel any pain from the branches scratching my arms and forehead. My autonomously pulsing heart also felt neither fatigue nor pain. My entire being just wished to live. There was nothing else it desired. Probably had no complaints whatsoever. So of course I wouldn't feel fatigue. I just ran. Just recklessly rushing in the direction I was already heading. Even if nobody was chasing after me, I'd still be running like this. There wasn't a thought in my mind about where I was headed. Turning around, I felt a presence right next to me. That presence was without a doubt chasing me like my shadow. If I took even one misstep, I would be devoured. That's what I thought. So I didn't turn around. I didn't stop. I ran. I ran at full speed. Is that quack, 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 the birds? I'm going to assume that's a yes. That was the chirping of the Higurashi telling me it was evening. Yeah, close enough. Trying to tell me something. And then I finally heard it. The wailing cry of the victims who didn't make it. Will I be joining them? More quarring. Only the Higurashi knew. They knew everything. They definitely knew. So I ran toward where I could hear more of the Higurashi's chirps. But the farther I ran, the farther away their chirping became. I couldn't get near them. Why are you all running away? Was it my fault? Was I the one to blame? Then I'll apologize. I'm sorry. 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 This goes on for a while, I feel like. Yeah, there we go. I felt that only the Higurashi knew. Well, this is an unusual fucking place to be, isn't it? The smoking room was filled with a cloud of cigarette smoke. The expensive smoke filter gave off some crackling electronic noise, but it didn't seem like it was doing anything at all. Why do smokers have to be shoved so far down this corridor where the sun didn't even reach? I recall hearing that the tax revenue from tobacco was about 1/10 of the municipality's revenue. We were the most heavily taxed members of this municipality, so I really wish they'd show us a little more respect. Sorry, who the fuck are you? I'm assuming at this point that I am now Oishi-san, and this is the police. This don't end well for Keiichi, does it? Why would you discard the 5 manzu there? It's just decreasing your options. One of the younger detectives was having a staring contest with a mahjong magazine called Next Turn. You're still in Tenpai if you cut the 5 manzu. You're betting on a Haitei? I don't know. I don't know the rules of mahjong. I've not watched March Comes In Like a Lion. Is that the mahjong one? I don't know if that's the mahjong one or the shogi one. I need to watch that show either way. If you're betting on Haiti, then you shouldn't be going into it with a shouldn't you be going into it with a mangan?
Kuma-chan,
look at the pond. They all discarded the 5 manzu. It's a safe tile. You'd hate if at the end of the game someone was sitting on the Tenpai in the last turn, wouldn't you? The kid let out another groan, put out his cigarette, then took out another one. I just don't agree. Why would you reduce your own options? By the way, you can't call Ron without your winning tile in that Haiti. What? Why is that? Just then I heard a voice coming from down the hall. You here, Oishi-san? You have a call from a civilian. Oh, ain't that something? Well, I'll see you soon. Why can't you call Ron on it? Felt like I went almost a little too Krillin there for that one. Hold on a second, Oishi-san! You know what? I've committed to the Krillin bit. I don't like it, but it's happening. I like Krillin light. The man sitting in the seat Oishi-san was headed towards waved the telephone receiver. Outside line. From a payphone. Oh, thank you. Sorry to keep you waiting. This is Oishi. Who is it? Oishi-san? Hello? Ah, if this isn't Maibara-san. Hi, good evening. From the tone of Maibara-kun's voice, I already knew he was in a predicament. This was the first time Maibara-kun had phoned me. And he was calling from a payphone. Please calm down. Did something happen? His voice was erratic over the line. He completely lost his sense of composure. After checking that nobody else could hear, I prompted him in a hushed tone. What happened? Wow, that's a real bad. Calm down, Maibara-san. I can have the local officers head to your location. I'll be there soon too. I think that's impossible. His voice was quivering and hoarse. He wasn't surrounded by people even as he was making this call, was he? Maibara-san, you're calling from a payphone right now, right? Where is that payphone? There were no other sounds besides Maibara-kun's voice. It had to be a phone booth. I scratched out a note and thrust it at my colleague sitting across from me. Hinamizawa phone booth. He understood and quickly started on the internal lines. Calm down, Maibara-san. What's your current situation? It was best practice to avoid flustering someone panicking, but this was an urgent case. Maibara-kun didn't just get in trouble, get away, and then call me. He was in the midst of something dangerous right now. But yelling at Maibara-kun now would needlessly cause him to be even more frantic. Maibara-kun wasn't just calling to seek help. He was trying to tell us something more than that. Whatever that was, if I didn't get it from this call, I was certain there would never be another chance. My colleague pushed the note in front of me. There's only one booth in Hinamizawa. Patrol cars on the way. 5 minutes. That's too long! How many officers are in there? 2. Not enough. If it was as I imagined, there were likely quite a few people surrounding Maibara-kun. 5 minutes was too long! Did you call the officer station in Hinamizawa? He's scheduled to be on patrol. They're currently out and it'd be impossible to contact them. God damn. Kuma-chan, bring the car around. Understood. Hello? Oishi-san? Oh, that ain't good. Also, doing Oishi-san's voice needs to make me cough, so this is authentic. Jesus Christ, that was more violent than I imagined. Hello? It's alright. I can hear you loud and clear. There was something wrong with Maibara-kun. That wasn't a normal coughing sound. It sounded like his blood was escaping through his throat. Vomiting? Or was it blood? Had he already been attacked? Was he injured? Maibara-san, the police are on their way. I'll be there in a couple of minutes, so hold on somehow. Hello? Can you hear me? Maibara-san! I could hear on the other end of the line that he was having a coughing fit. The worst possible situation popped into my head. Maibara-san! Who's the culprit? How many are there? I thought at first the culprit was human. I couldn't tell if that was a cough or vomiting. You alright? Maibara-san! I thought at first the culprit was a person, not Oishiro-sama's curse. Up until right now. But I guess in the end... It was an intense bout of coughing, then vomiting. But I guess Oyashiro-sama does exist. No, he's here. Maibara-san, please just calm down. I've been thinking it was strange for a while now. It's been following me this whole time. I run and run and run and run and run, but it just sticks to me like my shadow. But slowly, so slowly, it's digging itself into my back. Maibara-san. Are they right? Are they right now? Perhaps right behind you. Behind me. Right behind me. Please, Maibara-san. I can tell you're scared. But please. Who is it that's right behind you? I can't just look behind me. If I do, I'll... I understand that you're scared. But please tell me. You need to turn around just a bit. Who is it? Who is it behind you, Maibara-san? Right after I said that, I could hear him vomiting intensely. What followed was a nightmarish sound. Maibara-san. It couldn't be that you're clawing out your own throat? There was no answer. But I could hear something like scratching. There was a bang as if something was being hit. My Barakun had probably dropped the receiver. I could hear groaning and vomiting on the other end, and a repeating, abnormal noise. Hello? Hello? Maibara-san! Hello! I knew how far away my voice would sound on the other end, but I couldn't help but shout. At that moment, I heard whispering, coming from the other end. I couldn't tell what he was saying. From the way he was saying it, was he talking to himself? Or was he talking to someone there? Hello? Maibara-san? Rather than whispering, it was some kind of mantra he was chanting over and over. I focused my senses, trying to pick up on what he was saying. What was he repeating? What exactly? Suddenly the line went dead. Did he use up his time? It was because he was a payphone. It was because it was cut so abruptly. The last thing he said came out so clearly in my mind. Oishi-san, the car is good to go! Oishi-san! It was... I'm sorry. Oishi-san? That's what he was repeating over and over. He said, I'm sorry. I had a gut feeling there was no longer a need to hurry. I could hear the chirp of the Higurashi spilling in from the open window. Fucking queeing like the bastards they are. I should have been able to hear them this entire time. I just wasn't paying any attention. Why did I focus on them all of a sudden? And the queeing continues. Were they trying to tell me something? Only the Higurashi knew. That's how I felt. June 1983. In Hinamizawa, a remote village near Shishibone City, there was a murder involving 2 female students. The suspect is Keiichi Maibara, aged... Who really gives a shit? The suspect called over his 2 female classmates, Reina Ryugyu and Mion Sonozaki, to his house and beat them to death with a metal bat. The scene of the crime was the suspect's room on the 2nd floor of his house. Inside of the room was covered with a significant quantity of splattered blood, and there were signs of a struggle with the victims. In addition to the scene of the crime, the entryway, living room, and kitchen all had traces of a struggle. At the entryway, the shoe rack and wall had evidence of being impacted by a strong blunt force. It is believed to have been the same bat as the murder weapon. Having no traces of blood on it, it is believed that the destruction occurred before the murders. There is a possibility that the suspect overpowered his victims to keep them from fleeing. In the living room, the rug had been pulled back, then thrown aside. It is hard to believe that this had a connection to the struggle with the victims, and thus the reason for this remains unknown. The rug was pulled back? Was that... Oh, wait, was that because he was looking for the needle in it, or... I think it was, but I'm not entirely sure at this point. It's been a while since I recorded any of this. In the kitchen, the garbage bag was torn apart and its contents were spread out on the floor. Garbage was strewn about in the surrounding area, and handprints believed to belong to the suspect were discovered. It is believed the suspect had for some reason taken out the garbage and struck it with his fists. The reason for this remains unknown. Yeah, okay, so both of those are relating to him looking for the needle. In addition, there was a note stuck to the fridge. The words, "Was there a needle?" were written on it. The meaning behind this remains unclear. Just in case, the garbage was searched, but a needle was not discovered. Though the garage door was functional, it had been left open ever since the suspect moved in. The garage door was found closed. The suspect's fingerprints were discovered on the garage door. The reason for this remains unknown. I know the Americans are going to yell at me like that, but in the goddamn UK we pronounce it as garage, not garage. The suspect fled from the... I mean, it looks like that, doesn't it? Yeah. The suspect fled from the scene of the crime. However, a patrolling officer, Hinamizuwa local PD, found the suspect collapsed inside a phone booth. At the time of the discovery, the suspect was unconscious and in critical condition. He was rushed to the local hospital for treatment, but did not gain a consciousness and died 24 hours later. The result of the autopsy indicates the immediate cause of death to have been hypovolemic shock. It was determined that the suspect had clawed out his own throat with his fingernails, and the resulting bleeding caused his death. With the similarity to the death of Tomitaki-san the week prior, the police believed there was a connection and have opened an investigation. However, due to the local authorities, it will be kept confidential investigation. Due to the abnormal nature of the death, it was suspected that drugs were involved, but as with Tomitaki-san, no traces were discovered. That's because they're behind my clock! Wait, shit, I was possessed! What prompted all this remains inexplicable. As such, this case is being treated as an act committed on impulse. However, with several accounts of the suspect's bizarre behavior leading up to the incident, it is possible that this was premeditated. Separated from his group of friends, isolation, inexplicable behavior. Several days before the incident, the suspect began carrying around a metal bat. The suspect was observed displaying aggressive behavior, as well as talking to himself at school. His classmates had actually heard portions of what he was saying. 2 days before the incident, the suspect declared to his parents the possibility of his death. Due to these circumstances, the police had begun an investigation on the possibility that this crime was not committed on impulse, but was instead planned several days in advance. Afterwards, a note was found in the suspect's room that he had written himself. The note was written on 2 sheets from a B5 college-ruled notebook that had each been torn in half. As if trying to conceal it, it was stuck behind the clock on the wall. The contents are as written in the appendix. The police believed it to be strongly related to the incident. The police changed their line of investigation based on the possibility that the suspect was involved in some sort of incident himself. However, no further clues were found, casting doubt on the credibility of the note. Was the crime impulse or premeditated? With the situation unclear and no further developments, the case has been labelled as unresolved. However, the following year, suspicion arose regarding the nature of the note. The note was not written on 2 halves of B5 paper from 2 separate sheets, but was originally a single sheet of B5 paper. In order to erase several lines from the middle, someone had torn them out. Judging from the size of the letters, the missing section is estimated to be 2 to 3 lines. It is highly probable that the person who eliminated the lines in question is not the suspect. In addition, judging from the traces of large quantities of cellophane tape being stuck to the back of the clock, speculation that something other than the note was stuck there has arisen. The person who first discovered the crime was the detective, rumoured to have a connection with the incident, Kuraudo Oishi. He underwent voluntary questioning but denies any involvement in damages to the note. The suspect's note. I, Keiichi Maibara, am in fear for my life. I do not know why they are after my life. The only thing I do know is that it has to do with Oyashiro-sama's curse. Reina and Mion are conspirators of the perpetrators. There are 4 or 5 adults, maybe more. They have a white van. This is on the first sheet. The section below this has been ripped out. It's from the second sheet. The section above this has been ripped out. I had no idea as to why it's become like this. If you're reading this, then I'm probably already dead. Though you may or may not find my body. Right, so they've ripped out the bit relating to the drugs. And the fact that drugs were used in Tomitaki-san's death. So they are definitely hiding the fact that they got some fucking super drug that the police don't know about. Gotcha. Or at least Oishi-san took it. You who are reading this, please uncover the truth. That is my only desire. Keiichi Maibara. Sorry, did someone just drop a fucking nuke? What the hell was that? Ooh, extras! What the fuck was that? New scenario. All the cast review session has become available. Yeah, I didn't get a chance to read that. Okay, so I've come back on the day after recording that last episode just to, voice a few thoughts that I currently have about the whole Higurashi thing. Oh, by the way, if y'all want me to read... where is it? If y'all want me to read this all-cast review session, I will. But I figured most people will probably just want me to move on to Chapter 2 straight away. Once I get the 7th mod working for literally every chapter after this one. I just need to remember how I did it. I guess I could start with that one. Yeah. I'm gonna continue. Why wouldn't I at this point? I'm committed and died. So I'm gonna carry on and see what the hell, where I'm actually getting into with the rest of the chapters. As for, the chapters after the Higurashi one, because I think there's... Oh god, I don't actually know what the other one's called, but there are other ones in the When They Cry universe, so... Your guess is as good as mine. Yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to come back here with, a bit of a... what do I think right now? Because, I did have a brief... I had a very brief thumb through this all-cast review session myself. Just to see what it was, and I started recording it, and then I realized it was like an extra hour and a half, so I'm like, well, an hour and a half is stretching it. It was around an hour, so I figured that'd probably be best to put in its own video. If people want to see it, that is. But yeah, one of the things they discussed was, like, the majority, well, I say the majority, like, which side people fall on. Do people believe that it's people doing these murders, or do they believe that it's all Oyashiro-sama's curse? Now, not to be that smart asshole and be like, it's probably both, but I believe that, like, the people are murdering them because of something to do with Oyashiro-sama. Now, whether that actually is a curse, or whether they're, like, reenacting them out of, I don't know, some form of weird-ass religion, or out of fear for the deity or something, your guess is as good as mine. But I still don't know why Keiichi clawed his own throat out, given the fact that he hadn't actually taken the drugs. He said, don't think, wasn't confirmed. He said the syringe still had the liquid in it, so yeah, I don't actually know. Maybe there is a curse. Maybe Oyashiro-sama is real. But that's all by the by, and I'm hoping I'll get at least some answers with the next chapter when they eventually get around to recording that. Anyway, God, it feels like it's been a while since I've done an outro for Higurashi, doesn't it? As stated, Chapter 2 is coming, so if you want to keep up to date with whenever that appears on the channel, feel free to subscribe and follow me on the socials, so you have a vague idea of when it starts. Do all the usual YouTubey things, likes and comments, massively appreciated. God, it's a day later and I'm still coughing for doing the Keiichi voice. Jesus Christ. I hope that was worth it. I like to think that was a semi-decent performance. It's not worthy of being paid, but it's not bad. Give it like a 5. Yeah, perfectly average. It's not the best, but my God, it ain't the worst. But yeah, do the usual YouTubey things, likes, comments, all that bollocks. And if you're for some reason here and you haven't watched anything else I do, currently the only other consistent thing is Amori. I need to actually stream more of My Darling's Embrace at some point. I will get round to it. Just whenever I have spare time, which hopefully will be soon. But yeah, that's all by the by for now. Thank you for watching this episode of Higurashi. I've been Nyx, and I'll see y'all on Chapter 2.